All right, everybody, give a warm welcome to the 44th Mayor of Natchez, Mississippi, Dan M. Gibson.
Thank you, Richard. That was worth getting up for. It's good to see everybody. I just want to tell you, it's been a typical morning as a mayor. You know, getting to greet all of you is definitely the highlight of the morning so far. You know, we had some storms last night. We had somebody run over a pole in downtown. We got some people out of power. It's just a typical Saturday morning, you know. But this is the beauty of it. I don't know what it is, and sometimes I wonder about myself. Alderwoman Hall, by the way, give her a hand. Chairwoman of our Recreation Committee. Alderwoman Hall, I don't know. People might just say, Dan, you're just not right. Because I really enjoy being mayor, even when the power's out and the dogs are acting up. Because I get to come out here and see you. And what a beautiful day the Lord has blessed us with. And I'm excited because this is our first ever tournament for Richard Frisbee golf. I'm sorry, disc golf. I just had to do that. When I first became mayor in 2020, we were dealing with a pandemic. And a lot of people across the country were freaking out. You remember that? And Richard Burke came to me and said, you know, I got just the recipe for recreation at Duncan Park. Let's put in a disc golf course. And I said, wow, that's a great idea. And here it is. We have a championship ready course with 18 holes. And you are here now today to kick off our first tournament. A little bit of trivia. I am about to turn 58 years old. When I was 30 years old, I was elected mayor of Crystal Springs. TJ, I know you know that because I've said it enough, probably. And Crystal Springs had a beautiful park, but did not have a department of Parks and Recreation. So we created one. And the first director of that Parks and Recreation Department is now the mayor of Crystal Springs, Sally Garland. Sally. And oh my gosh, my homeboy, come on up here. What are you doing? Golly, it's been forever. We went to church together, used to, and I hope you still claim me.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you about Crystal Springs. I found out this week that, flash forward a few years, Sally Garland, as Department of Parks and Recreation Director, came to then the mayor, Pokey Evans, and said, all right, we gotta have a Frisbee golf course. Well, I don't know if they called it Frisbee golf back then or not, but Crystal Springs was one of the first to put one in. How many of you have played there at Duncan Park? Isn't it great? So it's just sad to say that it took us a little while to catch up with Crystal Springs, but we did. Here we are, and thank you, Richard, and thank you everybody from Natchez who's had something to do with this disc golf course coming into development. Please raise your hand. Please raise your hand and give them a hand. Amazing. Now, before we go any further, I would like for you to have a few words of welcome from Alderwoman.
She already talked.
She's already done it. See, I'm always late, and she's always ahead of me. She gets up earlier than I do. I know that for a fact. But let me just say this. We did renovate a lot of things over the last couple of years we have at these parks. But the main renovation has been what we call the Natchez renewal. Natchez is on fire. We're going great. And this is evidence of it. In fact, just 3 years ago, we didn't even have a Department of Parks and Recreation in Natchez. And now we do after many years of not having one. Thank you for supporting our city. And thank you just for being here today. And we wish you a great day of golf, a great day of beautiful sunshine, beautiful fellowship. And just remember, you're always welcome in this, the oldest municipality in Mississippi, the oldest city on the highest bluff of the most majestic river on the planet. There is only one, Natchez, Mississippi. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me at the Bluff City Open, the first ever tournament in Natchez, Mississippi. Huge thank you to Weston Sparrow, Ryan Porter, and all the other folks who I'm sure I'm forgetting for inviting me out. Here we've got, starting out, hole 1, par 3, 315 feet. OB Road to the right, which is where we'll see most of our throws probably be throwing over. during practice anyway. Chad getting this one nice and wide, swinging around those trees, getting right in front of the shot. This tournament had so much support from the community. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody as we see him coming along. And of course, how can I fail to mention our feature card, Chad Sherbert, Thunder Schultz, Mark Martin, Nathan Davis, and Morgan Woods. Chad and Thunder, as well as Mark, veterans of Magnolia State production coverage. Nathan and Morgan, two new faces, so let's see how they can do. In the background you can hear my good buddy Chris Miller. Here's Nathan Davis up. I got the pleasure of playing with him in practice, and he is very good. And just showing off right here, putting it under the basket. Yeah. And Morgan Woods, finally, on Team Cloud9 along with Chad Sherbert. He and his wife were out playing today. Nice throw there from Morgan. Here we've got Mark Martin up first, right next to this nasty magnolia tree. It's actually pretty open inside, but those branches are pretty thick to get through. Probably about 60 or so feet here. Doing a nice little run there. Easy tap in. Here we've got Thunder from just a couple feet shorter. Or closer? Closer. That's how that works. He always took his time with his putts. I think I mentioned that every time he's on coverage. Oh, just coming up a little bit short. Great run, though. Here we have Morgan. I think this is just inside the circle. Look at those calves. Oh my gosh. I didn't notice this before. Oh, very short. First putt of the day. Chad with the absolute tap in. Great shot from him. And the epitome of tap in, of course. Thunder. That's an extra stroke there. That is not his disc. Morgan tapping in his 3. And Nathan with the CTP. Tapping in that. Awesome too. Moving on to hole 2, par 3, 381 feet. This is a pretty long hole here. We've got an OB golf green to the left and an OB walking path to the right that kind of curves all around. And so we have a left to right shaping shot here. So backhand turnover or forehand, assuming right-handed player. Obviously, if you're lefty, you just cheat and throw. Chad, I believe this is his Halo Roadrunner. Catching that little guardian tree right there. Looked like it had a great shape to it aside from hitting the tree though. Here we've got Nathan. And this is a buzz, I believe. Nice straight shot. Unfortunately, finishing a little bit to the left, so he'll have a look at the basket, but outside circle 1 looks like. Thunder breaking up the forehand. Looks like he maybe didn't put enough angle on that, but he'll have a probably 25 or so footer there, looks like. Mark turning this one over. Thankfully did not kick OB, which happened in practice. I showed up Friday morning, played a little bit of practice, and a couple of my card mates ended up hitting that tree and kicking all the way left into the OB. Looks like Morgan has a bit of an ultimate background, and you see him kick over to the left. He will not be OB, thankfully. Mark with the thrower, I suppose you'd call that. Nice little forehand approach. He'll have about a 15-footer. That woodpecker sounded really loud. And Morgan almost ringing up the 2 from the distance. You see Chad from well outside circle 1, probably edge of circle 2. Been a nice little bit there. He'll have a 10-15 footer. Here we see Nathan from his drive. Ugh, tongue-tied. Just lofting it a little bit too much. Thunder from his drive. Ooh, calls it for to go left, and it does. Great 2 from him. This is a very long hole. Mark just high left side. Cleans up the 4, but that is not a hole you want to get the bogey on. Rest of our card looks like they're going to tap in their 3s. And Morgan with a great approach shot. Good scramble there. We arrive at hole 3, par 3, 204 feet. We've got these guardian trees here in the front. This is probably about only 80 feet ahead. And then we've got these 2 guardian trees here right in front of the basket. So the forehand or lefty hyzer is a great play here. Thunder unfortunately hitting one of the guardian trees, and he will end up fairly short. And you can also do what Chad is lining up here and just kind of throw really wide with a stable disc and have it kind of skip toward the basket. This looks like some sort of Firebird sort of disc, and he'll end up absolutely blasted past the basket with a 20 or so footer. So not blasted, but you know, when you've got a weak noodle arm like me, that's a smash. Nathan opting for that same line, and he will end up roughly the same spot. So 2 good throws there, I would say. I do believe the forehand is the best play if you've got it, because that left side is much more open. And he just opted to throw it through the gap, which I think is a bit of a misplay, but we'll see. And of course Mark Martin, forehand dominant player, throwing really high, and I can't follow that, so just kind of hoping we see it land. And land it does. He'll end up in a pretty decent spot, probably about a 25-footer. This is Thunder throwing his mutant, And this was absolutely parked. A great scramble shot here. And Morgan came up fairly short, so just didn't give it enough air. Faking me out there a bit. Ooh. Just missed the gap. But Martin came up a little bit short. This is probably 30 feet, maybe 35. I don't know. Depth perception is hard. And absolutely banging those chains. Getting back to even par. Ooh. Nathan sailing that one a little bit. Talking with Nathan during the round, Nathan is apparently a pastor, so good for you, Nathan, even though he looks like he's just out of college. I guess that's age discrimination. Chad making the correction from Nathan's shot. Nice dead center hit there. Morgan with a little bit of meat here for a 3. If this was for birdie, this would be easy, but you make it for a 3, and all of a sudden there's that mental pressure. And we see that pressure get to him, unfortunately. Easy cleanup for the 4, but not a 4 you want to take on one of the shortest holes on the course. Nathan not to be big putted, but a little bit left side on that one. And Thunder for his 3. Still going his full routine, doesn't let it get to him. Easy cleanup for him. Here at hole 4, par 3, 320 feet. We have an Amando to the right of this tree that unfortunately we can't see. The drone is taking the scenic route. We have this OB cart path here to the right, which is flagged and painted. And we've got these nice big magnolia trees guarding. And this OB cart path does curve all the way behind, so kind of plays a little bit like an island hole. Or peninsula hole, I suppose you'd call that. So this hole, not the most well designed. You kind of have to throw over the tee pad of the next hole. And Chad does that, and it ends up in a fantastic spot. Looks like he's got about a 15-footer. That big tree that we just saw with the sign underneath, that's a mandatory. You are not allowed to throw over or to the left of that because that's essentially throwing to the tee pad of the last hole. So this course, or at least this hole, a little bit tight when it comes to pace of play. Martin leaving this one nice and wide. Unfortunately crashing in a little bit short. Definitely would like to have gotten a bit more distance with that one. And while this tournament is going on, Silas is actually kicking some butt at the first major of the year. So definitely catch that footage if you can. Not from me, unfortunately. Thunder not making it through too far through that magnolia tree, but he will still end up with a decent look at the basket there. Nathan is just absolutely dialed with this buzz. He was throwing this the entire practice round I played with him. And I'm pretty sure he's thrown that off the tee for the last like 3 shots. Maybe it's a different disc. I could be wrong. Morgan, this is the line right there. Look at that. Absolutely ace running that. Here we see Thunder. That's a pro move right there. It doesn't want to get his knee wet from the wet ground, so he puts the towel down. Look at that. You can tell he's a professional. full routine, even in this awkward position. Ooh. Hitting the basket. No chains. Mark from almost the same distance, just a little bit of an easier look. Oh, also tasting basket, but unfortunately the putter not super happy with that, wants to give him a bit of a tester. Nathan coming up just a little bit short. Not a full committed putt. I imagine that OB came into his head from just behind the basket. If you're familiar with hole 16 at Old Trace Park, this is very similar, where even those short putts are kind of scary, because a 2 can easily become a 4. And Morgan thankfully did not go OB from his drive, so just taking his meter in from that OB line. Nice. Excellent putt from Morgan there. Putting him back on the board with a birdie. Mark to clean up his 3 here. Oh, very committed. That's the miss you want to see. That high putt. But can't be missing those for too long. Chad for his 2. It would be a turkey if he didn't miss hole 2. Or no, that'd be a 4 turkey. A 4 erky. And the rest of our players just cleaning up their 3s. Hole 5, par 3, 343 feet. We have an OB cart path here to the left, and then an OB road all the way back behind. This fence that you see down the middle is not OB. It is just a fence. This is a park after all. But it does kind of get in your head when like, oh, I gotta be outside this fence. But no, the fence is not OB. It's just kind of in the way. And this is a hanging basket here, so this is. It's not hanging right now, but in the tournament, it is hanging. Chad throwing the pro line here. Not the disc, just the line that the pros would throw. Maybe a little bit high, because you'd want it to skip a bit more to the left. I feel like Morgan has an ultimate background because he's got that straight arm pull through that you see a lot of ultimate players like Paul Oman throw with. Oh, lacing this one. Keeping it a little bit too straight, to be honest. And that fence line is the marked OB line because they don't want people playing from the road, because it is still an active road. So we will see if he did end up going OB or not. I want to say Thunder's throwing his mutant here. And that unfortunately does skip into the OB. You can barely see it. But he will be OB behind that big guardian oak tree there. I think it's an oak tree. I could be wrong. No, that's definitely not a buzz he's throwing. My gosh, the skip on that was incredible, though. He'll end up pin high, it looks like, but a little bit outside. And with the basket hanging, it's actually a little bit of a scarier putt, because if you go past it, you've got that OB right behind it. So Mark also opting for this great line here, just not getting the skip that you want. It did rain the night before, so the ground is kind of sticky and the grass is pretty long. Actually went further left than I remembered. Ooh, great bid there. Just coming up a little bit short. Chad making sure he's not playing out of line or out of order. Chad going 4 down through 5. Absolute blistering pace. Catching all the chains, but still not going in for some reason. And here we see Thunder actually putting through the tree. I wish I got an angle from this. This was so cool. To just go opt for this scary line. It doesn't make it, but it was still cool. Nathan cleaning up the 3. Mark to follow suit. And Morgan and Thunder to clean up the 4, it looks like. Hole 6, par 3, 258 feet. We have this OB cart path here to the left, and then there is an OB fence line to the right, I believe. But this OB, man, it'll really get in your head. Not a super long hole, but lots of trees. And the ground being pretty wet and sticky, not a lot of ground action, so you can throw the wide right-hand hyzer or the lefty hyzer. Thank you, Jason and Mary Beth, for sponsoring this hole. Good friends of mine. Probably be playing with them tomorrow. Chad giving that an absolute ace run. He will be parked. Put on the e-brake and take the keys out because it is parked. Morgan going a little too wide. Will end up not super cut off, but he'll have that big pine tree there to kind of contend with. This looks like his buzz from Nathan. Absolutely parking it as well. Marky Mark. Oh, the only thing to miss. But actually, not the worst result, because he did kick far enough past it to have a look at the basket now. And I believe this is I want to say this is a soft tactic. And that, in fact, does roll OB, unfortunately. You saw it on the cart path to the left. Morgan just not giving that enough angle, I think, because it was fighting back out of that pretty quick. Thunder from pretty far. This is probably like 80 or so feet, maybe a bit further. out of his hand. He was not happy with it. Here we see Marky Mark in a great position after that tree kick. Fighting back to even par. Thunder to clean up the 3. Oh, I'm sorry, the 4. Excuse me, he has no B-stroke. He's good for it. Morgan cleaning up the 3 as well. And Chad and Nathan to tap in their 2s. On to hole 7, par 3, 178 feet. I believe this is officially the shortest hole on the course. And we can see that for right-handed backhand players, it's a pretty tight hole to hit, or a pretty tight gap, excuse me. And if you're just a lefty, or if you've got a good forehand, that side is way more open, but it does bring the OB cart path more into play than the right-hand backhand. So those nice 2 guardian trees sandwiching the basket. Chad opting for the forehand line. It's really the place to be, you know, if you're trying to go for an easy shot. Just way more open, less thought put into it. And just hitting the root of the tree and it just sits. Like, what a great shot. Huge shout out to Barbara and Sean Trapp. Sean is a real estate agent. He sells houses down in Louisiana. Hit him up. Nathan also throwing a great forehand there. And I really wish that the mic had picked it up, but there was a man walking his dog, and the dog went over to the tee sign and peed on it, and he's like, "Mo, buckwheat!" And it was hilarious. It was so funny. Ooh, Mark giving that a great run. And for some reason I zoom into the ground. It's hard to get good help these days, you know. Come on, Morgan. You can do it. Star frame here. Trying to flex something down the middle of the gap just puts a little too much angle on it. I absolutely forgot that this was a 5-man card, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is the last shot. Yeah, this will be a star frame if he gets it in a circle. Yeah. Ooh, Thunder trying to ring up the ace. Morgan opting for the wide and quite far forehand there. Still out. That's about 15 or so feet. Man, this rice gets stuck in your throat, doesn't it? Great cleanup there. Got Thunder from just a couple feet further, or closer, further. You know what? I'm just going to say it. Closer. That's what it is. Nice 2 from him there. Nathan with a little bit of a tester. Oh, thank God he made it. And Mark Martin to get back on the board. Mark at a 2. And Chad to clean it up. Hole 8, par 3, 393 feet. Probably one of the hardest, at least distance-wise, par 3s we've got on the course. It does look pretty tight and wooded, but there's actually a lot of gaps to hit, so it's not the most punishing. But the distance is really difficult to hit. And there you see on the left, this is usually a bit of a pond. Thankfully, despite the storm beforehand, this hole was not like absolutely mush to walk in. So OB Road here, wrapping all around the hole, but a fair distance off of the pin, so it doesn't really get in your head when it comes to your putting. Also, I don't know if you saw that, but on the basket there's a little arrow pointing to the next hole. I think almost all the holes had that. Now I think that's a really great addition, especially for playing a course blind. Chad not really getting enough turn on that, and it just bails out early left, but that'll leave him with an easy approach. Nathan opting for the more traditional backhand line here. And he'll end up in a pretty good spot there. Probably about 25 feet. This is in fact still an open park, so quite a lot of people just walking around enjoying the day. It was a beautiful day. Mark smashing this one out here. Coming up just a little bit short, probably about a 40 or so foot look. And that one was kind of hard to follow, but it did land about 200 or so feet away, just way too low in the grass. Thankfully not OB, so always a bright side, always a bright side. That was me sneezing. Great shot from Morgan there. And I did apologize to him for sneezing like as he was winding up. He's like, don't worry about it, man. Thunder with a great approach here. His approach game was amazing. Chad giving that every bit of a run. Mark from about 40, 45 maybe. And who needs chains? Not Mark. That was an amazing two from Mark. Nathan, just bailing out a little early. I wouldn't say that was undercommitted. It's just a long putt. It's a hard distance to hit. Morgan very committed, just a little low. Nathan cleaning up the three. Morgan to clean up his three. And I suspect we will see the rest of our card clean up their three, unless some absolute miracle happens. And we arrive at hole 9, par 3, 217 feet. This is the probably most difficult hole. I wouldn't say that actually. Not the most difficult hole, but the tightest, the most wooded, and probably one of the most demanding tee shots, especially if you're going for the 2. Just there's so much brush, so many little branches to miss, and all these guardian trees around the basket just make this a really, really touchy, soft approach shot here to get there. And Mark unfortunately fading out really early into that brush, and he will Not like where he lands. It is very thick when you are off the fairway, and even the fairway. I mean, look at this. There's so many trees. Chad getting a fortunate roll out there, so he will be in the middle of the fairway with a pretty easy look to get up and down at the very least. Or and Nathan absolutely lacing this one, and I'm pretty sure he will end up probably about 15 or so feet away from the basket. That was just a great line there. Thunder taking his time. Big shout out to Between the Pines for sponsoring this hole. They do a lot for Central Mississippi disc golf and obviously surrounding areas. And Thunder with a great shot there. He should have a really easy look at the two. Or a really good look, really easy. One of the two. Morgan opting for the forehand. I think as long as you can make it down the fairway, any shot that you can throw just now to finish to the left, or I'm sorry, to the right, will be fine. Unfortunately, if you hit that tree, that's really going to stifle your chances. And that was really inside, and that's going to be almost up near the OB Road. And here we see Mark in the rough, in every sense of the word. Ooh, launching that a little hard, getting a fair distance past the basket. Chad giving this one a great bid, hitting metal. Here you see Nathan from probably about 20 or so feet, maybe a bit closer. Distance is hard to read. And nice two there. And Thunder from just maybe a half a foot closer. Oh, just coming up a little bit short. Mark to clean up the three. Ooh. Little bit high right, but hey, Jane's caught it, doesn't matter. And we finally get to Morgan's approach shot, and he was absolutely blistering past the basket. You like that zoom? Look at that. Now we got the basket in the foreground. And it looks huge. It's like the size of a person. Or maybe Morgan is just really tiny. Oh. Not able to clean up the three. He will card the bogey. Rest of the card will clean up their pars.